and welcome. It is Jen with Aging Advantage, and today we're going to talk about a really important topic that a lot of people think they know a lot about. And when you really get down to like the brass tacks, as they say, and when you really get into the specifics of, we're going to be talking, as you can see on the screen, about diabetes awareness. But when you really get into some of the specifics, it can get a little bit challenging if we're honest, and it can be a little bit tricky because there are just a lot of different aspects to navigate, not just only the medication part, but you have the food part. You have trying to also fit all this new stuff, if it's a newer diagnosis to you, into your lifestyle. And how do you do that while you're running around out there in the wild, as I tell you guys, and all the things. And so anyway, there's a lot of different things to navigate. And so that's why I am super excited today to have Emerald Gates and the Dr. Ernie Williamson with us from the St. Louis County Health Department to go over some of these interesting and, like I said, very important just tips and tricks and just just the topic overall, just to bring more awareness to it. Because as well, I'm sure they'll share too, there are so many people, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there's so many people out there that have, undiagnosed also diabetes potentially. And so, again, awareness and knowing the signs and symptoms and like knowing what you're looking for is absolutely key, to the first step for you getting proper treatment and then, feeling better, because that's what it's all about. So anyways, again, Jen with Aging Advantage. We are a nonprofit here in the St. Louis area. We serve St. Louis and surrounding area. We're able to do that through grants and also funding and donations. And like I said, we serve our area here, but definitely if you guys feel that this content is helpful for anybody else in your life, please share this with anyone nationwide, because again, this is just such an important topic. And we try to educate you all on different types of just different types of information, like housing insecurities, food issues, isolation issues, helping you be more self-reliant, self-resilient, and confident in all the things, and also on important health topics like this, so that you guys can be healthy and just be out there safely, living your best lives and feeling great. So that's why I'm excited, like I said, to introduce you to our friends at the health department today. And so you guys can glean some really awesome information from them. So thank you both for joining us, and I will let you guys take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the lovely introduction, Dr. Jen, and thank you for inviting us to speak to the audience on behalf of St. Louis County and Aging Advantage. So as stated, my name is Emerald Gates. I am the program coordinator for the Diabetes Prevention Program here with St. Louis County. I've work along with Dr. Ernie Williamson, and I'm going to allow him to go ahead and share his introduction.
All right. Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ernie Williamson, Health Education Coordinator, working with Emerald Gates in regards to diabetes prevention. And it is a pleasure to be able to be here and to share information with all of you as it relates to diabetes awareness. So without further ado, let's go ahead and proceed. All right, so what will we talk about today? Both I and Emerald, we were going to talk about diabetes. What is it? What does it entail? The risk factors, things like that. We'll also talk about health risk and complications. We'll also highlight health data from a national, state, and local perspective. And then we'll proceed to talking about the diabetes prevention program, all the ins and outs of that, and then leave room for questions and answers at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So what is diabetes? The common definition, and the one that's most common, diabetes mellitus. It is a chronic condition, and by chronic, we're talking about a condition that in which signs and symptoms last longer than a month. It affects insulin. This is the hormone that allows sugars that are broken down in the body to be picked up and put into our cells so that energy can be utilized. And so, as you can see, have these pictures to the right. The green highlights the insulin and purple highlights the glucose. And a simple way to think about this is if you could imagine being, for those of you who are looking on and have children or grandchildren, imagine your children going to the school bus, waiting to get on the bus. If you have enough school buses to get the children from school out to their homes, everything runs fine. But what happens if there are not enough buses, or if there are if the amount of children who are coming out are more than the buses that are available to take them away from the school? Then you can give an idea of what it's like in that way as far as an analogy. Looking below, you can also see that there's a picture of a blood vessel with glucose and blood. And the blue is actually supposed to be symbolic of insulin. You can see that, again, when you have a normal amount of glucose and a normal amount of insulin, the insulin is able to do what it's supposed to do, removing the sugar from the bloodstream. But when conditions cause sugar to increase, but the insulin number pretty much remains the same, you can see how that could be a problem. And that's when sugar can rise in the bloodstream and lead to various problems. So there are various types of diabetes. You can see that there are 4 types. Type 1 used to be called juvenile diabetes, but no more. That being said, it is an autoimmune condition in which the immune system destroys the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin. And it leaves the person with pretty much little to no insulin at all. This is a condition that generally happens with younger children, people in their teens, maybe early 20s, but it happens to much younger individuals. There's been a question of why this autoimmune condition happens. Some say it's because of a virus or a bacteria, but nonetheless, cells in the pancreas are destroyed. And because of that, individuals who are diagnosed with this have to have insulin injections from the very start, right? Prediabetes is a condition where actually your sugar is above normal, which is around 70 to 99, but it's not high enough to be diagnosed as type 2 diabetes, right? And the program that we are affiliated with, my partner Emma will explain that in a minute, why we endeavor to catch people at this point. Type 2 diabetes is the most common. Matter of fact, over 90% of people who have diabetes have this kind. And it is, again, one where insulin there's not enough produced, or there is enough produced, but the body is not able to utilize it effectively. Factors will be brought up a little later. And then the 4th type is gestational diabetes, which happens for some women during pregnancy, where the sugar levels last for a prolonged period of time during the pregnancy. So these are the type of diabetes that exist. Now, these signs and symptoms you may have been familiar with or know someone who has this. I'm going to highlight these symptoms mainly because these are the kind of symptoms that generally happen if and when diabetes is not being followed or controlled well, either by medication or lifestyle change. Starting from the top, things that can happen if it is not checked is that you can experience extreme hunger, a weight loss that you can't explain, excessive thirst. You could find yourself going to the bathroom with frequent urination. Also, there could be periods of extreme tiredness, irritability, blurred vision, and bruises that take a long time to heal. When these symptoms happen, it is if you or someone you know has not been to a doctor, they need to be seen, as soon as possible, because what we want to do is not have them experience complications which are seen in the very next slide. There, as you can see, there are quite a few things that happen when diabetes is not controlled. You talked about blurred vision. You'll see that eyes is one of the things that's brought up on the right side. Uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, this is a fact that must be highlighted. Uncontrolled type 2 diabetes is the number one cause of preventable blindness in the United States, right? So this is very important to be able to catch and control diabetes as much as possible, because no one wants to lose their vision for any reason, cataracts, glaucoma, right? You can see also that if diabetes is not controlled, one of the complications can be a stroke, or in common terms, a brain attack. The heart can be affected, heart disease. Already talked about stroke, but your coronary arteries, your arteries that are on your heart, can get blocked, and that can lead to various problems. And so, in addition to that, there's one aspect of uncontrolled diabetes that's not highlighted enough, and that is your teeth can be affected. If blood is not getting to your teeth as well as it should because of too much sugar, it increases risk of not just tooth decay and cavities, but also gingivitis and periodontitis, all right? So these are very important. And of course, nerves can be affected. When there's too much sugar in the blood vessels, nerves can be damaged and lead to tingling, or over a period of time, a loss of feeling on the tips of your fingers, on your feet. And also the kidneys can be affected, causing chronic kidney disease. So another fact that's very important to highlight is that the number 1 and 2 causes of chronic kidney disease is high blood pressure and diabetes. So again, these are the things that we want to prevent individuals from having, so we want them to have their sugar controlled. Also, another complication that's not necessarily on the screen is increased risk for amputation because of gangrene. When blood is not able to get to the areas of the feet, and processes can happen where it requires for length of life amputation. So again, these are the kind of things that we want to be avoided, and why intervention must come as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. All right, so let's just talk about now how we look at it from a top-down view of it. So as far as the United States of America, as of 2024, diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. Just a few years earlier, diabetes was number 8. So the fact that it's now number 7 is showing that it's increasing in severity. So it's alarming. 1.2 million Americans are diagnosed with diabetes every year. Now, the thing that's very challenging about that is that most people who have diabetes don't realize that they have it. Matter of fact, when it comes to prediabetes, 1/3 of the country, 340 million Americans, 98 million have prediabetes, and 80 to 90% of them don't realize that they have it. Now, as of 2023, as we bring it to the state of Missouri, 600,000 adults who are 18 or older in Missouri have been diagnosed. And that shows a prevalence of 12.3%. All right. And so, these facts just bring to light the reality of how dire and severe, diabetes is in this country. And as we now look at this lower picture on the right, bringing it even closer to the St. Louis City, County, and St. Charles, as well as Missouri, you can see that blue is the state of Missouri, so it's in the whole state is right around about 20%, right? And you can see that the top graph highlights St. Louis City, that the rate of people who are dying from the effects of type 2 diabetes is above 20% versus in the county, which is just below, and then a county like St. Charles, which is even lower. But this graph highlights the fact that, first off, I mean, 20% is still a high number for the whole state. And for the city, there are factors that we won't get into today, but the reality is that these effects are leading to, high death rates, and it's something that must be addressed. And so let's move on to the next slide. So what is diabetes? The common definition for diabetes is that it is a chronic condition, chronic meaning that it is a condition that has been occurring as far as signs and symptoms for more than a month. It is a chronic condition that affects the hormone insulin, which is released from the pancreas. It's a hormone that allows sugar that's broken down to be removed from the bloodstream and placed in our body's cells so that the glucose can provide the energy that the body needs. As you look at these pictures on the right, both top and bottom, you can see that, at least on the top, the green highlights insulin and the purple highlights glucose. And so when there is enough insulin to remove glucose from the bloodstream, everything moves well, the body's able to get energy, and sugar is cleared from the bloodstream. However, if there is a lack of insulin, or if there is enough insulin and there's too much sugar in the body for various reasons, then it leads to the increased amount of sugar that is in the bloodstream. And that fact is also highlighted in the bottom picture, in which you see a picture on the left where there's a normal amount of glucose and insulin, which happens to be in blue. It's the right where there's a whole lot more sugar than the insulin, which is there to try to remove the sugar from the bloodstream, or glucose. All right, so now let's talk about the various types of diabetes. We'll start with type 1. Type 1 is a chronic autoimmune condition that many believe could be related to a virus or some other pathogen. But no matter what, it is a chronic autoimmune condition in which the body destroys the cells in the pancreas that release insulin, and they happen to be called beta cells. And when that happens, it leaves an individual with little to no insulin for the body. And although children can get this, it is known for individuals in their late teens and even in their early 20s of adult age to get this. And there have been even some who have been a little older who get this type 1 diabetes. So that's why it must take time to highlight that. Next is prediabetes. This is a condition in which an individual is noted to have a glucose or sugar level that is above the normal range of 70 to 99, but is not high enough to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, right? Next is type 2, which is the most common type of diabetes in this country. Over 90% of people who have diabetes have type 2. This is the one where the body is able to produce enough insulin and the body is not able to use it, or the body, just for whatever reason, is not making enough, leading to the high sugar levels in the blood. Lastly is gestational diabetes, and this is a chronic condition where the body resists insulin or fails to produce enough of the insulin during a woman's pregnancy period. All right, now we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms, and these are critical because if you or someone you know is experiencing these kind of symptoms and have not been to a healthcare provider or may not be on any medication, things need to be accelerated pretty quickly. From the top, we look at extreme hunger, unexplained weight loss, excessive thirst, frequent urination, extreme tiredness, irritability, blurred vision, and slow healing bruises. These are symptoms that generally occur again when individuals sugars are at a chronic condition level and are not being controlled well, right? And we want to make that these are addressed because complications can come, and we're going to talk about that on the very next slide. And as you can see, there are quite a few complications, all of which are critical. When we talk about the eyes, the reality is that the number one cause of preventable blindness in the United States is uncontrolled. Right? So whether it's retinopathy or macular edema, cataracts or glaucoma, all these things can lead to vision problems that are irreversible. And so, these are the kind of things that we want to prevent or avoid for those who have type 2 diabetes. In the brain, too much sugar in the bloodstream can cause damage to blood vessels in the brain and can lead to a stroke. If that same amount of levels of sugar goes into the coronary arteries of the heart, that can lead to a coronary artery disease and a heart attack. Teeth are also affected. If the blood is full of sugar and is not allowing blood to get to teeth, it can not only lead to tooth decay and cavities, but gingivitis and periodontitis. Nerves are affected. Too much sugar can actually damage the nerves to the point where you may start off with a lot of tingling, but then it could lead to loss of feeling altogether. And that can lead to its own problems, not being able to feel things. You could bump into something and not even know it, all right? It can lead to damage to the skin, and if not, that can lead to other problems. Kidneys are affected also. The number 1 and 2 cause of chronic disease in this country is uncontrolled high blood pressure and uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, right? And so we want to make sure that anyone who is on this path doesn't get to this point, because there are very few things that can be taken care of once these kind of complications happen. One other thing that I want to highlight that's not necessarily on the screen is the reality of increasing the need for amputation or experiencing gangrene in the lower limbs. Next slide. All right, so let us now take a look at some information in regards to the country versus Missouri versus the local area in regards to diabetes. So, as of 2004, diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. It wasn't too long ago that diabetes was the 8th leading cause of death. So the fact that it's now moved up to 7 is really alarming. 1.2 million Americans are diagnosed with diabetes every year. That's quite a bit. Now, as we look a little closer at that next bullet point, we see that as of 2023, nearly 600,000 adults 18 and older in Missouri have been diagnosed with diabetes with a prevalence of 12.3. Again, another high and alarming number. All right. Now, when we look at the graph on the lower right, we now look at the rate of diabetes deaths when it comes to Missouri, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County. And you can see that when it comes to Missouri is hovering at that purple one's right around 20%, right? Which is still high as compared to the national average. But now, as you can see, above it is the St. Louis City. And though it is higher than the average for the state of Missouri. Now, as we're looking at this slide, the good news is that as from 2011 to 18, the rate has gone down. So that's a positive. However, it's still above national average and it's still high, but at least there is some hope there. And you can see also that in St. Louis County as well as St. Charles, it's below the Missouri average. So yet and still, because of where we are as Missourians, still needs to be careful because all of these things cost, cost the consumer in various ways. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, so now at this point, I'm going to ask my partner, Emerald Gates, to now share with you the information about the National Diabetes Prevention Program.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ernie Williamson, and for the information you shared about diabetes. And that is the reason why I'm here to talk to you about the National Diabetes Prevention Program. We're a team and we educate, but then we also try to make sure that we provide programs to prevent. So we do not add to the local data and things like that as far as increasing the prevalence of individuals with diabetes, with type 2 diabetes. So today I'm going to be, as Dr. Williamson stated, he's turned it over to me to talk about the National Diabetes Prevention Program. And so just to give you a little bit of background of what is the National Diabetes Prevention Program. So in 2018, the CDC awarded funds for 5 years to state and local health departments to design, test, and just evaluate innovative approaches to address the significant national health problem of diabetes and heart disease and stroke. Along with this grant, we developed the 1817 Alliance. And so about 5 years ago, we collaborated with the St. Louis County Health Department, collaborated with Missouri DHSS, which is the Department of Health and Senior Services, along with the YMCA, the City Department of Health, and a few other local organizations. And the purpose of that, as Ernie explained, was just due to the high prevalence of data that was going on that we saw in Missouri and that we saw nationally. And it was, as I stated above, to just design, test, and evaluate innovative approaches to address the significant national problem. And some of those things that were designed were, as I'm going to elaborate a little bit more, were different ways to have the program. So when we say innovative, a lot of people will have in-person classes, but this is a program that can be also offered virtually. It can be offered in person. We also combine cooking classes and things like that to make sure that we're meeting the audience and the individuals who enroll in the program where they are. The project focused on the St. Louis area because we're in St. Louis, and the reason why is because the area accounted for about 28% of Missouri's preventable hospitalizations for diabetes and heart failure and hypertension in comparison to surrounding areas. And specifically we focused on areas what we call the promise zone. And so earlier you saw a map where Dr. Williamson talked about Missouri versus St. Louis County versus St. Louis City. And so while the St. Louis County line was below the national average, we still have pockets within St. Louis County where the prevalence is exceeding those numbers, where you're at 2.3 to 3.5%. The prevalence and the hospitalization rates are higher in these particular areas than in other surrounding areas. And so those would be, for example, we can say 63136. That would be a Bellefontaine area code, or right where our location is our John C. Murphy area, which is in Berkeley, or our North Central location, which is in what they call Pine Line. So 63121. Those will be some graph in comparison to like your 63011 or those particular areas such as Ladue, or those areas where prevalence rates are a little bit lower in comparison. So we target those areas. To add, the National Diabetes Prevention Program, or what we call, you'll probably usually hear us call, or a lot of people call it DPP or NDPP, because of the audience that we're talking to. You may also hear MDPP, which stands for Medicare Diabetes Prevention Program. But the National Diabetes Prevention Program, as I stated earlier, is a CDC recognized program. We emphasize that it's a year-long evidence-based lifestyle change program. And I'll highlight that a little bit because when you hear a year, you're like, oh, wait, I don't have that much time to commit. But it breaks down a little bit easier to where it's more so, we like to say 26 weeks or 26 sessions, because they will break down into weekly sessions that will then turn into bi-weekly to monthly and bi-monthly sessions. So don't let a year long sound so alarming. But as we stated, this is an evidence-based program. As you heard me say earlier in the previous slide, the CDC, they did a bunch of, like we like to say, trial studies. And based off of the data that they were seeing, as you can see, research shows that people with prediabetes who actually took part in this program, they were able to decrease their type 2 diabetes by 58%. And reports showed that for those that were aged 60 and older, those numbers were even higher by decreasing 71%. So again, that goes to your population, which is why we were able to create an entire MDPP structure, because we saw that the numbers in the ages actually had a better result with age. So some of the things, and we'll talk about this more too, but the results of this program is to help people lose 5 to 7%. So it's like, okay, we have prediabetes and we want you to prevent it, but how do you do that? I enroll in the program. You're telling me, people have lost this percentage, but how do I do that? So if you enroll, some of the goals and some of the things that we do is, one, it's to lose 5 to 7% of your body weight. Now that sounds like a big number, but as you can see in the example below, if you're an individual who weighs 200 pounds, 5 to 7% of that body weight is equivalent to 10 to 14 pounds. And that again is over a year-long period. So we're not asking you to lose that in a month. We're not asking to lose it in 2 months, but studies show that if we give you the skills that within that 12-month span, you should be able to lose 5 to 7% of that body weight at your pace with the things that we teach you. So again, in order to lose that, we also teach you the skills to eat healthier, manage stress, and to increase physical activity. So this could be during times where, the holidays are coming around and you want to eat good. We just got off the summer months and barbecues and things like that. Well, how do I manage my diabetes during that time? Or, you're getting, just due to your age, you may have lost a lot of family and you could be lonely or living alone. And a lot of things can cause stress eating. And well, how do I get through those things? How do I still get in 150 minutes of physical activity if it's hot outside and I don't want to go outside? Or if I have limited mobility, how do I still do that? And enrolling in this program and, partaking in group activities, these are lessons that are taught to you during sessions of how to maintain despite, your lifestyle. So I talked a little bit about the program structure, and I know we keep hearing year long, but again, it's just to remind you. So this is a free or low cost program. And so at one point we did offer the program exclusively free when it was, just when we had more grant funding, but due to transition and fundings and things, it is a low cost, we like to say. Now, if you are an individual who has Medicare or Medicare Advantage, it can be covered usually 100% through your insurance. If you have a commercial insurance or Medicaid or some source, we do try to work with insurances to see if it's covered. We do have some additional resources to where if there is a cost share or if there is a cost and your insurance doesn't cover it, with us being a local health department, we try to find the funding to be able to make sure that you're able to participate and prevent from, going into that type 2 diabetes. Because we would, hate for you to come to us and say, I know I'm pre-diabetic. I have a A1C of 5.9, but I don't have any insurance. I can't be in this program, so we try to find ways to work with you no matter what your condition. So as we talked about it being innovative, This program is delivered in person, online, or through a combination approach, is what we call distance learning. So in some ways, mobility or transportation may be limited. So we can do it just like how we're presenting to you today virtually. We can do a virtual class. If we know some people may not, and even me at a younger age, I am not tech savvy. So if you're not tech savvy, you don't have to worry. You can come in person, or you can even take the class over the phone. We have all types of ways to work with you and your conditions to be able to participate in this. So breaking down a little bit more, we have 2 phases of the class. So the first phase is what we like to call the core phase. And this is at least 16 weekly sessions. It's the intensive phase, and it focuses more on behavior change, diet, and exercise. Talk about energy in and energy out, how to become active. Those are just some examples. And this is the prime time when, and Dr. Ernie is actually the lifestyle coach who teaches the program. So this would be an example of, this would be the time when he would tell you how to lose those 5 to 7%. How to lose that 5 to 7% of your starting weight. So again, if you're at 200 pounds, things that you get down to, that 190 or, 195 weight. And then things how to get at least 150 minutes of physical activity. The good thing is that these are usually group sessions. So you may be also in the class with anywhere. The lowest class we had, I believe, were 5 participants all the way up to 10 participants. And so you get to work together. You get ideas from someone else who may say, I have that issue too, but this is what I do to get around it. So outside of just having the manual that you receive with the program, you have group support from other people outside of just the coach, which can be motivation to you as well. And so it becomes like your own family. And so then in phase 2 is just going back, the 16 weekly sessions, those are every week. So it's an hour every week. And then you go into phase 2, which is the maintenance phase. Now, this phase is all about independent. I won't say independence for lack of better words, but finding the motivation to take what you learned and apply it. So you're giving, the tools to succeed. And now let's see if you're able to maintain what you learned more so on your own. And so this one, instead of meeting weekly, you're going to go down the first few weeks or the first few months, you're going to meet bi-weekly. So I believe sessions 17 through, I want to say, and Ernie can correct me, 17 through 21, I believe, are going to be bi-weekly. And then the last few sessions, because we go up to 26 sessions, those will meet monthly. So at that point, and you can correct me once I'm finished if you need to, Ernie, because I know he teaches the class and he keeps a better report of how they break down. And so in those maintenance sessions, you're going to learn how to just basically keep the weight off, because we have individuals who, it's like, okay, now I'm in this, I'm not meeting every week. So, and now it's wintertime or something, I'm going to binge eat, or, I'm not going to do my physical activity as much. But there's classes that say, hey, I know you may be going through this, but let me show you how to keep it off. You're going to keep working towards your goal. So at the beginning, you set a goal, like, what is your personal goal? And then we keep track of, okay, are you remembering that goal? What are some things that you need to do to make sure that, you're not forgetting the things that you set for yourself? And then a lot of people may have already met their 5 to 7% goal. And so you may feel like, well, I've met it. So now what? Well, there's things that we teach you how to lose more weight if you wish, or how to continue to make sure that you don't go back to where you started. So this is more of the maintenance phase, because at the end of the program, we want to make sure that, the reason why we have the maintenance phase is because when the program ends, we want to make sure that you're able to still maintain this healthy lifestyle that we taught you. So we don't want to Velcro you and hold you like a baby through the whole thing. We want to make sure that you are able to spread your wings and keep up the habits that we teach throughout the program and once it's over. Some of the other things outside of the program that we do implement, we do partner with Mizzou Extension. They have a great Dining with Diabetes series that we offer during Diabetes Awareness Month. we've partnered with other local organizations, or we've offered food boxes. We've partnered with other entities that's also done other cooking classes. So those are some of the benefits that you will also be able to engage in by enrolling into the program. You usually have first access to be able to participate, because with the cooking, the reason why we incorporate the cooking demonstrations is because it's one thing to tell you how to eat healthy, or, not tell you, but advise you to eat healthier ways. But actually having a hands-on demonstration of how to measure something properly, or how to read a food label properly to understand how much sugar is actually in this product, because it can be hidden in there, or how many carbs or things are in this, or the salt. So it's a really good program. Those are all the things that we teach along with the DPP program. Okay, well, now we've told you what the program is about. How do you qualify? Who's eligible? Well, for DPP, it's going to be adults 18 years and older. And so that would be everyone on the call. And not only is there an age, but you do want to, we do have a BMI requirement. So a BMI of 25 or higher. And for Asian Americans, it's 23 or higher. We do want you to have pre-diabetes. Well, let me take that back. We don't want you to have pre-diabetes, but in order to be in the program, that is a qualifier. So you have to be pre-diabetic, and especially for MDPP. So there's some lines. When we go back and forth, so for DPP, you can also qualify by a risk test. When you enroll, whether you do it on your own or with a lifestyle coach, there's going to be a questionnaire of questions that just have to ask you about your family history, your level of education, your income, different things to just see if you meet these criteria. And the reason why is because some people, as Ernie stated, may not even know that they're pre-diabetic. Some people, you may not been to the doctor in, a few years. But if you ask certain questions and we say, okay, well, what's your BMI? Or do you have a family history? Or did you have gestational diabetes? Those are some questions that if you have so many points, you will still qualify for the program. Now, if you are a Medicare recipient, unfortunately, we cannot qualify you by the high risk score. You can only qualify if you have a history of prediabetes. And you must provide your blood work. And so there's different blood works that you would be able to provide, such as the A1C. So for your A1C, the pre-diabetic range is 5.7 to 6.4. If you've exceeded that 6.4, unfortunately, you would be in that type 2 diabetes range, so you would not qualify. If you're below the 5.7, that's good news. You're not pre-diabetic, because we do have people who are like, but I'm 5.6. I want to make sure. And we want to make sure. I get it. But the good thing is that you're still healthy enough to reverse your risk without having to be in the program. A fasting glucose, that's between 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliters. And for Medicare, it has to be 110 to 125. So that would be a difference too between the MDPP and the NDPP. And then lastly, you can also provide a 2-hour glucose, and the range for that will be between 140 to 199. And so just basically kind of go back to that last one. If you do already have type 2 diabetes, unfortunately, this is you would not qualify. We do have other programs that we can connect you to if you are interested in a management side of your type 2 diabetes, because we want to make sure that that's controlled as well. But the DPP is strictly for prevention, to make sure that you do not cross over into that type 2 diabetes prevention. So next is, well, how do I enroll? Well, I'm going to leave this screen up for a while because you can actually scan that QR code. If you don't have the ability to scan the QR code, you can type in the website address there. Now, the good thing about this website is that it actually lists several partners that are associated. It is the website to our Missouri network. Habit New is our umbrella organization that we partner with to provide this program through the Missouri DHSS. And so if you go to the website and say you do not maybe want to take the program with St. Louis County, There's actual listings, or maybe it's just too far. They will actually list all of the organizations who post this program, from the YMCA to other local health departments and everyone else in the state of Missouri. If you happen to not be in St. Louis and you're in a different area region, you can go to the website and you will be able to find a location that's near you. If you choose to scan the QR code, that will take you directly to the St. Louis County's enrollment link, and it will send us an email. You will be able to enroll through the program, and we will follow up with you within 48 hours of enrollment to ask you just some additional questions and to see if you're actually ready to join the program. And so that's going to conclude what I had to provide on the National Diabetes Prevention Program. Again, I am Emerald Gates. I'm the Diabetes Prevention Coordinator for the St. Louis County Health Department. And you're muted.
Oh, and I'm back. Yeah, it's Jen. Yeah, but I was like, yeah, Dr. Ernie, did you want to say anything?
Oh, no, just we're thankful to be a part of this program. Just one little detail that wanted to highlight was that it's true what Emerald said about the phases. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2. In phase 2, the sessions that are the biweekly will be from modules 17 to 20. And then after that, it becomes a monthly class.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Williamson. So then we're going to just leave it open for any questions or comments that you may have. If you want to email us, you feel free to send any emails. I'll go back to this screen. You feel free to, you can email Dr. Williamson at ewilliamson@stlouiscountymo.gov. You feel free to give us a call, or you can email me. I have no problems. It's going to be egates@stlouiscountymo.gov. And that will conclude our presentation. Again, thank you, Dr. Jen and Aging Advantage, for allowing us to come and speak. And again, do not hesitate to reach out. Dr. Jen will let us know if you guys have any questions, if you happen to forget the email addresses. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I do have we do have a question. So in regards to like regular, as we would consider kind of like traditional diabetes, right? Where we all think of that typically as like high blood sugar. Can you speak a little bit to like hypoglycemia, which would be like low blood sugar, and how is that different in like symptom wise? How would somebody maybe know the difference between, one or the other?
So yeah, so hypo, with very low, that can happen in multiple ways. Generally, the most common reason people end up being hypoglycemic is they may be on a medication, and either the medication is too strong and they're not eating enough food to, to allow for the medicine, or if by taking not enough food, there's taking too much broken down glucose into the bloodstream. Also, well, let me just stick to the main cause of that. Symptoms that can happen, believe it or not, it can be kind of similar. Dizziness and lightheadedness can happen with that, increased sweating, just feeling really weak. Can also happen with someone who may be in a hypoglycemic state. And if you end up being in that state, it's very important to make sure you have something on you that can provide you with sugar very quickly, like a candy bar or a sweet drink, to prevent from that symptom, getting worse, because, you don't want to, for lack of a better term, you don't want to bottom out. All right. So, but yeah, when it comes to hypoglycemia, I mean, there are other factors, but one of the main reasons why people end up being hypoglycemic is because, based on the medicine that they're on, they may not be taking in enough food or nutrients in. Now, for those who aren't on any medication, again, it's mainly related to, how much are you eating or not? Uh, well, where's your stress level? Those are the kind of things that have to be, considered as well, because when people are in a highly stressed level, they may not eat enough or drink enough, and those things can lead to a cascade of problems.
Can
Yes.
you go into hyperglycemia? Because I know you talked about the hypo. So can you go into the hyperglycemia as well, I believe?
Yeah, and then also question two, while you're just kind of, going through this too, what I guess would classify from like a blood sugar range, would you say like somebody as being classified as like hypoglycemic versus, to your point, like Emerald, like hyperglycemic, like what would that look like for somebody that is, checking their blood sugar all the time, or is starting to kind of feel weird kind of symptoms, potentially, and they're like, yeah, maybe I should like actually start checking my blood sugar and
Yeah,
see where this thing's at. But can you kind of give people kind of a guideline for that, just for what to
absolutely.
look for?
So in general, be concerned if your fast blood sugar is below 60, you're in dangerous waters as far as hypoglycemia. Generally, hyperglycemia is anything above 99. So 100 and above. Now we're in the level of hyperglycemia, right? But yeah, but to the hypo, it's, yeah, if you're testing your sugar, you're feeling dizzy, feeling lightheaded, sweaty, and you check your sugar and it's below 60, yeah, you need to address it very quickly.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. And I hope you guys learned some, again, just kind of important information about diabetes that maybe you didn't know before. And again, their prevention program and just their program in general is a really great resource and really great tool. And, if you are not from here and you don't, necessarily, like know who they are, again, feel free to still, participate in the programs if you can, or try to connect, with your local health department that you have in your area, and see what kind of programs they have, because so many of them have such incredible resources and teams, that they are just more than willing to share information about. And I think, one of the biggest keys and the biggest takeaways is, sometimes just us humbling ourselves to know, like, okay, like I think I know what this is, but I'm just being open, just being open to like, okay, I could probably, maybe learn a little bit more information about it. And so again, just reaching out and just ask, as I always tell you guys, you just have to ask, and you just have to make sure you advocate for yourself and what you need. And again, just the resources are there. You just need to make sure that you ask for them so we can get you aligned and keep you guys living your best lives out there. So again, thank you guys for joining me, and take care of yourselves as always, and take care of each other. Thank you.